Welcome back, metal fans. The biggest names didn't invent their sound, they inherited it. Here are 12 bands who quietly invented heavy metal. Number 12, the Kinks. In 1964, a 17-year-old guitarist named Dave Davies sat in his bedroom, depressed and messing around with a razor blade. He could have hurt himself. Instead, he turned to his cheap little El Pico amplifier and slashed the speaker cone to shreds. Then he plugged that destroyed amp into a Vox AC30 to amplify the damage. What came out was the most aggressive guitar tone anyone had ever heard on a pop record.
Yeah, you really got me now. You got me so I can't leave at night.
You Really Got Me hit number 1 in the UK, number 7 in America. And that opening riff, built entirely on distorted power chords, changed everything. Now, to be fair, Dave Davies didn't invent distortion. Link Wray's Rumble came out 6 years earlier. But the Kinks took that sound and shoved it into the mainstream. They proved that aggression could sell. Tony Iommi heard it. He cited Dave Davies as an early influence on Black Sabbath's down-tuned riffs. Van Halen heard it too. They covered You Really Got Me as their debut single in 1978. But the Kinks? They moved on. Ray Davies started writing clever songs about English tea and suburban life. They got banned from touring America for 4 years, and the guy who accidentally invented metal's signature sound became famous for being witty and British instead. The Kinks gave heavy metal its teeth, then walked away. But in 1968, another British band took that same aggression and compressed it into 3 minutes that would blueprint everything to come. Number 11, Gun. The song was called Race with the Devil, and the Gurvitz brothers had no idea they were writing a blueprint. Adrian played guitar, Paul handled bass and vocals. Together they created a riff so heavy, so driving, so relentless that it sounds like it came from another decade entirely. The track hit number 8 on the UK charts. That made it one of the heaviest songs to crack the mainstream that year, and the music press didn't know what to do with it. The Gurvitz brothers had created something that didn't fit anywhere. It wasn't psychedelia. It wasn't blues rock. It was something harder, meaner, more direct. One music historian put it perfectly. Within 3 minutes, Gun laid out the blueprint both musically and thematically for all riff-fueled action to come from their country. That riff echoed far. At the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970, Jimi Hendrix quoted it during Machine Gun. Judas Priest covered it decades later.
You better run, you better run, you better run from the devil's gun.
Girl School put it on their 1980 album Demolition. Gun? They lasted 2 years, 2 albums. Then the Gurvitz brothers moved on to other projects, and Gun became a footnote. "3 minutes, 1 riff, a blueprint for British metal, built entirely on guitar. But what if the heaviest instrument in proto-metal wasn't a guitar at all? Number 10, Atomic Rooster. It was a Hammond organ, and in the hands of Vincent Crane, it became a weapon. Atomic Rooster formed in London in 1969. Crane was a classically trained keyboardist who had just left the crazy world of Arthur Brown. He didn't want to play progressive noodling. He wanted to play something heavy, something oppressive, something that felt like dread. In 1970, they released Death Walks Behind You. The title track is built on a grinding organ riff that sounds like a funeral march having a nervous breakdown.
Lock the door, switch the light.
The lyrics are about paranoia, fear, the feeling that something terrible is always right behind you. This was doom metal before doom metal had a name. The song hit the UK Top 20, a dark, crushing, morbid track about psychological horror, on pop radio in 1970. One critic called it prophetic. Their doom-laden lyrics about morbid fear and death paved the way for the black metal of Black Sabbath, Venom, and beyond.
Start to scream, shout for help. There is no one by your side.
Paradise Lost covered it. Death SS covered it. Big Elf covered it. The influence spread through doom and gothic metal for decades. But Atomic Rooster got filed under progressive rock. Vincent Crane's mental health struggles disrupted the band repeatedly, and the organ-driven heaviness they pioneered got overshadowed by guitar-based metal. They proved keyboards could be just as crushing as distorted guitars. But one British band went even further, adding an instrument nobody expected to hear in heavy music. Number 9. High Tide. Violin, distorted, aggressive, and screaming alongside crushing guitar riffs. In 1969, guitarist Tony Hill and violinist Simon House formed High Tide. What they created didn't sound like anything else, because nobody else was insane enough to try it. Their debut album, Sea Shanties, came out in October of that year. Music historians now cite it directly as one of the first proto-metal records ever made. That's not fan speculation. That's the historical record. Simon House didn't play the violin like a folk musician. He attacked it, distorted it, made it wail and shriek alongside Hill's massive guitar tone. One critic described them as having the muscularity of a no-nonsense proto-metal band. Another went further. The heavy riff rock conjures up Black Sabbath meets The Doors, by way of Iron Butterfly. There's nothing gentle about this music, nothing pretty. It's aggressive, dark, and heavy in a way that wouldn't become fashionable for another decade. High Tide made 2 albums. Then their drummer Roger Haddon had a mental breakdown, and the band collapsed before a third could be recorded. Two albums, 18 months of existence, and a sound so ahead of its time that metal historians are still writing about it 50 years later. If they'd lasted longer, we might talk about High Tide the way we talk about Sabbath. Instead, they're a secret shared between collectors and historians. But at least they got remembered. The next band on this list? They were so dominant that Judas Priest and Motörhead had to open for them, and still, nobody knows their name. But before we reveal, First, let me know which one's been the biggest surprise so far. Drop it in the comments below. And if you're discovering some of these bands for the first time, hit that subscribe button right there. Number 8. Stray. In the early 1970s, one British band was so dominant on the live circuit that up-and-coming groups had to open for them just to get noticed. Those opening acts included UFO, Judas Priest, Motörhead. The headliner? A band called Stray. They formed in 1966 in Shepherd's Bush, London. Guitarist Del Bromham was the driving force, and he's still playing today, nearly 60 years later. Their 1970 self-titled debut opened with All in Your Mind, a 9-minute proto-metal epic that critics ranked as one of the heaviest releases of that year. The riffs are punishing, the energy is relentless, and the sound is years ahead of its time. Steve Harris of Iron Maiden has called himself a long-time Stray fan. Maiden covered All in Your Mind on a 1995 reissue. And in 2003, Stray got a call to support Iron Maiden on European tour dates. Think about that. The band that Maiden's heroes used to open for was now opening for Maiden. 3 decades of role reversal, all because Stray never got their shot. Why? Wrong label. Transatlantic Records specialized in folk music. They had no idea how to market a heavy rock band. At one point, Stray was managed by Charlie Cray, brother of the notorious Gangster Twins. Nothing about their business situation made sense. Del Bromham played the same riffs that would make other bands famous. He just played them for the wrong audiences, on the wrong label, with the wrong management. Stray never got a champion in the industry. But the next band on this list? They had Deep Purple's frontman in their corner, and it still wasn't enough. Number 7. Jerusalem. In the early 1970s, Ian Gillan was the biggest rock vocalist in the world. Deep Purple was selling out arenas. Smoke on the Water was everywhere.
We all came out to Montreux on a late meet.
And Ian Gillan heard a band from Salisbury that made him stop everything and offer to produce their album. The band was called Jerusalem. Their 1972 self-titled debut is one of the heaviest records of the decade, and almost nobody has ever heard it. Gillan wrote the sleeve notes himself. He called them rough, raw, and doomy with their own strong identity, almost crude, but still immensely powerful. Rough, Raw, Doomy in 1972. One doom metal historian was even more direct, about as crushing as anything ever recorded in the 70s. The guitar tone is massive. The riffs are slow and suffocating. This is doom metal before doom metal existed, made by a band with no profile, no touring infrastructure, and no label support beyond that one album. Deep Purple's frontman believed in them enough to produce the record. And then, nothing. One album, no follow-up, no tours, complete obscurity. Jerusalem has been rediscovered by doom collectors who treat the original pressing like a holy relic. But in 1972, the album came out, sold almost nothing, and the band evaporated. Ian Gillan recognized greatness. The rest of the world wasn't listening. But at least Jerusalem got a proper studio and a famous producer. The next band didn't even get that. Just 11 hours and one chance to make something that would last. Number 6, Leaf Hound.
But they don't add up so much compared to you.
Here's how you make a proto-metal classic. Book 11 hours in a studio, record everything in one take, and hope your label doesn't go bankrupt the week your album comes out.
Shake that city, yeah. Drown my life in fear.
Leaf Hound formed in London in 1969. They started as Black Cat Bones, then changed the name and tightened the sound. In 1971, they walked into a studio and recorded Growers of Mushroom in a single 11-hour session.
Everybody was scratching, but nobody saw. Nothing was out of place.
The result is 40 minutes of fuzzed-out, riff-driven heaviness. One rock magazine called it a pivotal moment in the development of heavy metal.
And I've got to live the freelance stream.
The sound anticipates stoner rock by 2 decades. The riffs are thick, the energy is raw. It sounds like a band playing for their lives because they knew they only had one shot. They were right. Their label went bankrupt immediately after release. The album was never properly distributed. It became a collector's myth, whispered about in record shops, traded on bootlegs, selling for over $3,000 when original pressing surfaced. Cayuse heard it, Monster Magnet heard it, Wolfmother and Tame Impala heard it. The influence spread through stoner and desert rock like an underground river.
I saw the lights of 1,000 stars twinkling beyond the seams of this terrible day.
The band reformed briefly in 2004 after discovering they had a cult following. They were genuinely confused that anyone remembered them. Perfect album, 11 hours of recording, decades of influence, and a band that had no idea they'd created something that would outlive their bankrupt label by 50 years. Leaf Hound became a legend through bootlegs and word of mouth. But the next band on this list? They became a ritual, one that Iron Maiden still performs before every single show. Number 5, UFO. Iron Maiden has played thousands of shows across 5 decades. Before every single one of them, the same song plays over the PA system. Doctor Doctor by UFO. It's not a random choice. It's a ritual, a tribute, an acknowledgement that without UFO, Iron Maiden wouldn't exist.
Doctor, doctor, please, can't you see the mess I'm in?
UFO formed in London in 1968. They were a decent space rock band until 1973, when an 18-year-old German guitarist named Michael Schenker joined after leaving Scorpions. Everything changed. Schenker brought technical precision, melodic sensibility, and a tone that would define the new wave of British heavy metal's guitar sound for the next decade. Albums like Phenomenon, Lights Out, and the legendary live record Strangers in the Night became blueprints. One journalist made the connection explicit. Listen to the Schenker era of UFO, then listen to early Maiden. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure where the band took their cues.
The wings of God above you before spirits meet.
Iron Maiden thanked UFO in the liner notes of The Number of the Beast. Kirk Hammett cites them. James Hetfield cites them. Dave Mustaine cites them. Def Leppard cites them.
And here as the prostitution, my
every major metal guitarist of the 1980s studied Michael Schenker's playing with UFO, and yet UFO never broke through to arena headliner status. They were too hard rock for prog fans, too melodic for punk fans, too early for the explosion they helped create. They fell between genres while their students became superstars. Iron Maiden still plays Doctor, Doctor before every show.
Doctor, doctor, please. Don't you know I'm just
It's their way of saying, we know where we came from, even if no one else remembers. But if UFO influenced Maiden, the next 4 bands on this list built something even bigger. Before we reveal them, which band on this list did you already know? And which one shocked you? Tell us in the comments. Number 4, Angel Witch. The Guinness Book of Hit Records has a category for least successful chart act of all time. Angel Witch is in it. Their single, Sweet Danger, spent exactly 1 week on the UK charts, at number 75. Then it vanished. Here's who doesn't think Angel Witch was a failure: Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, Testament, Venom, Candlemass. Every one of those bands cites Angel Witch as an influence. Dave Mustaine appeared on the cover of Decibel magazine wearing an Angel Witch shirt. One metal historian called their 1980 debut the first panoramic black metal statement of the modern era. Kevin Hayborn formed the band in London in 1976, originally calling them Lucifer. He's been the only constant member through decades of lineup changes, breakups, and reunions. The debut album, just called Angel Witch, is considered one of the most influential records of the new wave of British heavy metal. The title track alone influenced an entire generation of extreme metal. Trouble covered them, 6 Feet Under covered them, Onslaught and Skullfist covered them. So, why the Guinness record for failure? Kevin's father refused to hand management to professionals. An EMI deal fell through because of family interference. The band that created the template for dark melodic metal couldn't get out of their own way. Officially a failure, unofficially the foundation for everything that came after. But Angel Witch at least got their album into shops. The next band on this list recorded a masterpiece that nobody heard for 16 years. Number 3, Pagan Altar. In 1982, a father and son duo from South London recorded a 40-minute demo at their own studio. The studio was allegedly built on a crossroads where witches had been burned. Terry Jones sang. His son Alan played guitar. They called the band Pagan Altar, and they had created something that wouldn't have a proper name for another 4 years: doom metal. But Pagan Altar wasn't just about the music. Their live shows featured an altar draped in velvet, human skulls burning incense, inverted crosses, a coffin belching dry ice, satanic invocations before the first note. This was 1982. Black metal's theatrical approach was a decade away. Pagan Altar was doing it in working-class London clubs for audiences of dozens. The demo circulated through tape trading networks. It was never officially released. And in 1983, the British heavy metal boom went bust. Thrash was taking over. Glam was on the rise. Nobody wanted slow, doom-laden metal with occult theatrics. Pagan Altar broke up around 1986. Here's the cruel part. That same year, Candlemass released Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. The doom metal genre officially began. The sound Pagan Altar had been pioneering in obscurity was suddenly legitimate. They missed it by months. In 1998, a bootlegger pressed their old demo to vinyl. The band finally released it officially. One journalist later called them one of the greatest, if most enigmatic doom bands the metal scene has ever produced. Terry Jones died in 2018. He spent the last years of his life watching a new generation discover the music he'd made 35 years earlier. Decades late, but finally heard. Pagan Altar invented doom metal in the shadows. But the next band invented something even more fundamental, the very name of the genre itself. Number 2, Holocaust. In 1980, a band from Edinburgh released a single with a title no one had ever used before, Heavy Metal Mania. Those 3 words marked the first time the term heavy metal appeared in a commercial song title. Holocaust literally named the genre. Then, history forgot they existed.
Inside the power cage.
Guitarist John Mortimer founded the band in 1977. When asked about the name, he said, "When someone hears us, it should be like a nuclear bomb going off." Their 1981 debut, The Nightcomers, is considered one of the most important albums of the new wave of British heavy metal.
I'd like to get it to you if I could.
One critic called them definitely the heaviest and darkest band of the movement, surpassing Venom by a long shot. The evidence is in the catalog. Metallica covered The Small Hours on 2 separate albums. Gamma Ray covered Heavy Metal Mania. Six Feet Under covered Death or Glory. But when The Nightcomers came out, it sold almost nothing. The band fractured immediately after. Mortimer was so abandoned by his bandmates that he recorded the second album almost entirely alone, playing every instrument except drums. Without Metallica's covers, Holocaust would have vanished completely. The band that named heavy metal would be less than a footnote. Their record label now markets reissues as Metallica approved. That's the legacy. A band so overlooked that their main selling point is someone else's approval. They gave the genre its name. They got nothing in return. But if Holocaust named heavy metal, the band at number 1 wrote its rulebook and handed it directly to Metallica. Number 1, Budgie. A Welsh power trio named themselves after a small bird. They wrote riffs so heavy that Metallica built their entire early career on them. And for 50 years, almost nobody outside of hardcore metal circles knew who they were. Budgie formed in Cardiff in 1967. Burke Shelley played bass and sang in a high-pitched wail that predated Geddy Lee by years.
I ain't no mountain for you to climb on. Ain't nobody that you could be.
Tony. Bourge played guitar with a precision and aggression that wouldn't become standard until thrash metal emerged a decade later. They recorded their first album with Roger Bain, the same producer who had just finished Black Sabbath's debut. The sound was just as heavy, the riffs were just as crushing, but the name was Budgie, and the music press didn't know what to do with them. Bread Fan came out in 1973. Listen to it today, and you're hearing thrash metal before thrash metal existed. The speed, the aggression, the relentless rhythmic assault, everything that would make Metallica famous is already there. Metallica knew it. They covered Crash Course in Brain Surgery in 1987. They covered Bread Fan in 1988. Both tracks ended up on Garage Inc. When Burke Shelley died in January 2022, Lars Ulrich posted a tribute. Thank you, Burke, for everything you did for heavy music, and much next-level appreciation for co-writing and creating 2 songs that Metallica were honored to record over the years. Honored. That's the word Lars used. Iron Maiden covered them. Soundgarden covered them. Van Halen played their songs during early club sets. Every major metal band of the 1980s studied Budgie. They just never talked about it publicly until decades later.
I ain't no mountain for you to climb on. Ain't nobody that you could be.
So why didn't Budgie become as big as Sabbath or Zeppelin? Burke Shelley deliberately chose the name to be anti-macho. He avoided the sex and drugs rock lifestyle. The band got minimal promotion in America, and they looked wrong, sounded wrong. A high-pitched Welsh vocalist fronting a band called Budgie, playing riffs heavier than anyone else on the planet. Metal wasn't supposed to look like that. Metal wasn't supposed to be called that. So Metallica took the riffs, built an empire, and spent 40 years trying to give credit to the band that made it all possible. Budgie did everything first. They just did it with the wrong name, the wrong image, and the wrong timing. Biggest names in metal didn't invent their sound. They inherited it from a Welsh band named after a small bird.